Welcome to all. In this particular session, we will see the concept of garbage collection and finalize method and how exactly this can be used. And first of all, we should ask yourself what is garbage collection. Okay, in Java, it is one of the important feature I can say, because Java is very strong in garbage collection. Now let us see what you mean by garbage collection. Okay, since objects are dynamically allocated by using a new operator, you might be wondering how such objects are destroyed and their memory released for later reallocation. So it is one of the thing, isn't it? So you usually take the memory using your program, and after your program execution, you just come out of the program or that application. You will never bother about the releasing of the memory, whatever the memory you have taken for your application. Say for example, you are building some application and you want to roll out that application to the public. If that is the case, so you are a program, so you have written some code and you are trying to access some memory, and you want to keep that memory for your work or for your application. If that is the case, definitely after your work you have to release that memory for the later users, or some other application may use that memory for the future work, isn't it? So you have to think in that way also, because as a developer, when you roll out something to the public, you should be very careful with all these things, because if your application is not releasing the memory after its work, then it is a drawback of your application, isn't it? So you should think twice before closing. Say for example, after your execution, if you are accessing some memory, then who is going to release it? So, and one more thing, so as you are third year students, you would have seen in C++ and C and all. So if some loops are going wrong, then you may go for infinite loop. So you say for example print 1 2 3. If that is the case, if the loop is wrong, then you may get infinite loop and you may print 1 1 1 1 1 1 and so many times. Now that printing also takes some memory after execution, or if you go for Control Z or Control X, or if you go for closing of the application, who is going to release that memory in the background? Because whatever the things, even though it is going for infinite loop, it is going to store somewhere, isn't it? Though all the information will be stored somewhere, and who is going to take it? Who is going to reallocate the memory? Who is going to release that memory after the application? No one has bothered till now, but Java has taken that into consideration, because after some work, after some execution of some applications, ultimately whatever the memory you have set using your program code, it has to be released in the later stages. Okay, that is the thing. Next, in some languages such as C++, dynamically allocated object must be manually released by the use of delete operator. Okay, so whatever the in C++ there is a separate operator only, keyword, predefined keyword is available, that is delete. So it is just to be used to free up the memory. So dynamic allocation, you would have learned this concept in your previous year. Okay, so using new operator, if you are allocating some memory for a particular data, after your work you are going to use delete operator, and you are going to just vanish, or you just flush that particular memory for the later users. I don't know whether you have done the program or not, but in the textbook, in the syllabus, I'm pretty sure that you have the concept of dynamic allocation using C++ also. But in that case, as a developer, you have to manually deallocate. You have to manually release that memory for the future use. But in Java, so it is very strong. Java will take care of memory management. It is very strong in memory management as well. In C# also, Java and C# almost they are very good in garbage collection, this memory releasing concept. Okay, the Java takes a different approach. It handles the deallocation for you automatically, so it will take care of it. You don't need to bother much on this. Okay, the technique that accomplish this is called garbage collection. So this question may be there, what you mean by garbage collection, and how Java is going to take care of it. Because see, whenever we talk about application, whenever we talk about coding, this memory management is one of the vital concept. It is a vital part, I can say, because when you roll out some application to the public, if some other, you see, it is not like you are the only person who is developing application. There are so many companies, there are so many developers, and each and everyone will be experimenting on their own code. If the code is good, if the application is perfect, they just roll out that application to the public so that user can download and make use of it. In the same case, even though you are trying, if your application is not behaving correctly, your application is not working correctly, then there is a problem, isn't it? There is a direct problem. your program can affect some others application also. Then they can go. Usually it won't happen, because before, if you're working in company, some companies, they definitely, the tester will be there and so many stages will be there. That is a separate part of story. But even though it goes like that, there can be a legal action also in the future if something goes wrong with respect to data and memory. Not in just memory, with respect to data also, because all data is vital and private data will be there, and you should not be trying to manipulate it, or you should, your code should not access it in some part of the memory. That is one constraint is there before rollouting any application. Okay, these are the some of the area which you have to think before starting coding, before you start coding. Okay, the technique that accomplish, okay, garbage collection. Okay, it works like this. So when no references to an object exist, the object is assumed to be no longer needed, and the memory occupied by the object can be reclaimed. There is no explicit need to destroy object as in C++. So when the reference doesn't exist for a particular object, see, ultimately you are creating object for all the classes, and when you create the object, default constructor will be called, and you are going to allocate the memory for the memory for all the variables which are available inside the class, isn't it? How many number of objects you create, that many number of memory will be allocated for each and every, that many copy of a memory also allocated. So if your application has, say for example, 50 variables, different kind of variables for a large application, that means lot of memory will be allocated when you create some object for a particular class, isn't it? So that has to be released after your work. So here in Java it will take care of it. So Java will, you don't need to bother as a developer, you don't need to bother about the reclaim of the memory. Okay, the garbage collection only occurs sporadically, if at all. Okay, that during the execution of your program, once you are done with the reference, if the reference no longer exists, then it will that object will be directly destroyed, and all the memory will be reclaimed. That is the thing. Okay, so it will not occur simply because one or more objects that are no longer used. Furthermore, different Java runtime implementation will take varying approaches to garbage collection, but for the most part you should not have to think about it while writing your program. So there are so many different techniques also for garbage collection, because say for example, some objects are no longer needed in the current running application, but the rest of the things are if required, means this garbage collection concept or the code which they have written for the garbage collection, it has to take care of it also, because once it deletes or once you just destroyed some object, if that object is required for the future steps, then there will be a problem with respect to your program, isn't it? So once everything is stopped, everything is closed, and that object should not be required for the future, then only it has to destroy it. Otherwise there will be a problem, serious problem with respect to your application also. So garbage collection, the code whatever the developer has written for the garbage collection, they have to think of it. That code has to think of it. So there are so many different approaches actually, but as of now, that is the reason why they said as of now you don't need to worry much about the code when you start writing. Okay, now there is a concept of finalize method. There is a separate concept of finalize method. Sometimes an object will need to perform some actions when it destroyed. Okay, so for example, if an object is holding some non-Java resources such as a file handle or a window character font, then you might want to make sure these resources are freed before an object is destroyed. This is what I just was saying. So if something goes wrong, if the application is still require that object, or if this object is not from your application part, it is from outside, if your program is trying to access, that also has to be released, otherwise there will be a problem. Sometimes you would have seen, I don't know how many of you have used this application, this scenario you would have seen in mainly in Windows. So say for example, you plug your USB drive into the system and you start copying something. Okay, so it is something in terms of GB, say for example 1.5 GB file you are trying to copy. Okay, now say for example, after you are copying, so in some cases, very rarely, but in some cases, if the copying window is still open, you cannot directly go in the bottom side. You are going for safe remove, remove drive safely. You usually go for it, isn't it? That time there will be one error popping up saying that your device or your hardware device is still being used, something like that. It will go. Then we will usually what we do, we won't think, because after copying it should be removed, isn't it? But that window will be open in the background. We will never bother about it. But whenever we see, then we get frustrated and we will take. But if you are cool and if you're calm, if you follow the instruction, definitely you can go back to the system and you can see which window is open. You can close the window manually and then you can remove the USB. In I don't know, I cannot assure you that every time you will see this particular thing, but sometimes it is possible. Sometimes you would have seen that error message. Because why? Because your application still using some hardware resources which is outside the application. So this is the thing. So this is one example I just wanted to say. So in this case, so this finalize method will come into picture. So it is something like in the try catch block, in the exception handling in C++, you would have written some code for exception handling, try block, catch block. Can you remember? There also you have something like final block and all. You have the concept. Even though something goes wrong, or if whatever it may be, the inside the final block, whatever the code you have, it will be executed without any tension. This is separate. This is the extended version of the same thing. Okay, here it is a finalize method. To handle such situations, Java provides a mechanism called finalization. By using finalization, you can define specific actions that will occur when an object is just about to be reclaimed by the garbage collector. So here this particular process is called finalization. Okay, so this finalizer thing will be required. So, or a specific action can be written inside the finalize method, so that after the garbage collection, if something has to be executed or if something has to be done, you can write that code inside the finalize block. To add a finalizer to a particular class, you simply define the finalize method. The Java runtime calls that method whenever it is about to recycle an object of that class. Inside the finalize method, you will specify these actions that must be performed before an object is destroyed. So it is just before the object is destroyed. So finalize method will be invoked when this particular system or the garbage collection is about to take place. It is not like after the object destroyed. It is not like that. Very before, like just before the final object destruction. Okay, whenever this garbage collector is trying to destroy the object, this finalize method will be called, and whatever the code you have written inside the finalize method, that will be executed. You would have seen some of the application will say, do you want to really close something? If you say yes, or or exit button, if you press, this finalize method will be, if there any pop-up message or all done or thanks for using, something will pop up, isn't it? That means that all thanks for using, or all the best, or all done, or right in a right tick mark in a green color. So all those things can be, such code can be written inside the finalize method, because after closing your application, that has to be pop up, isn't it? So when you close the application, this object is about to destroy. At that time, this finalize method will be called, and you can work on that finalize method and you can add some code to that particular method. Okay, the garbage collector runs periodically, checking for the object that are no longer referenced by any running state or indirectly through the other referenced objects. So this is one of the important thing. That is the reason why I said, if the object is still required, this garbage collector should not delete it. So it is the work of garbage collector to re-verify whether it has to be used or not, whether the object is still required or not. Otherwise there will be a serious problem. That's what I just said in the previous explanations. Okay, the right before an asset is freed, the Java runtime calls the finalize method and on the object. The finalize method has the general form, so you can see the finalize method in the bottom lines. You have protected void finalize. Inside the finalization code goes. So protected means it is access specifier, isn't it? You have the concept of private, public and protected. So I request you to go through that concept again and again, because it is very, 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 very important with respect to Java thing, because you have n number of classes, you have n number of overriding concept in Java. So if you don't know the concept of this one access specifiers, then there will be a problem, because protected access specifier has got its own style, private access specifier has got its own style, and public has got its own style. So if you don't know the difference between these three access specifiers, then it will be definitely a problem in the coding part. Okay, because when you have n number of classes, you have to inherit concept of n number of classes, and each and every class has got its own access specifier, means you should know how exactly you can make use of that particular thing. But here, see, Finalize, you did not create this method, it is predefined, and this is mainly used for garbage collection. So at that time, before the garbage collection, whatever the things if you want to store or if you want to perform something, this Finalize method will work upon. So you should know that this Finalize method is by default have the access specifier of protected. Then how can you make use of it? How can you inherit the concept? How can you make use of this? You should know, because that concept involves this access specifier thing. So that is the reason why I said your basic should be very strong. Okay, so these are some of the information I can give for this Finalize method. So you have one more concept called this keyword. So probably you would have used this keyword in the C++ thing also, in the C++ concept. So sometimes a method will need to refer to an object that invoked it. So to allow this, Java defines this keyword. Okay, this can be used inside any method to refer to a current object. That is, this is always a reference to the object on which the method was invoked. You can use this anywhere. A reference to an object of the current class type is permitted. To better understand this, you can see the below code. So ultimately, what is the meaning? So whenever you go for this keyword, that means from which object you are calling a particular method. That is the thing, or function. Okay, so this is how, say for example, in your program you have 10 objects for a particular class. And you don't know, because each 10 object will have 10 memory location, separate allocation for all the variables, isn't it? Say for example, OB1 have, say inside a class you have two variables, A and B. So object 1 will have one set of copy of A and B. Object 2 will have separate set of A and B. Object 3 will have separate set of A and B. So how you are going to get to know that which object you has invoked A and B? That time this keyword will come into picture. Using this keyword, you can see which object has tried to access A and B memory. Okay, this is programmatically, it is very important, because sometimes you require this, which object has claimed and which object has used, and how can you make use of this in your program. So to understand these things, this keyword is very essential. So you can go to that example, say, so you have one box constructor, so double W, double H, double D. There are three variables which will take the parameter, and inside that you have this width equal to W, this height equal to H, this depth equal to D. That means whatever the object has created, that object will be used for width, height and depth. Say for example, inside the main method, if you have gone for box space OB1 equal to new box, and if you pass some values like 2, 3, 4, that 2 will come into that object 1's width location, and H will come, or 3 value 3 will come and sit in object 1's height memory location, and that value 4 will come and sit in object 1's depth memory location, something like that. So if you have object 2, again this will refer to object 2, and if you have object 3, then object 3 is calling that constructor, means this will refer to object 3, this one. This in the sense that keyword I am saying, this is not the general English, this is a particular keyword which is available in C++ as well as in Java. Okay, this version of box operates exactly like the earlier version. The use of this is redundant but perfectly correct. So redundant, why redundant? Because you will definitely get confused. What is this? How exactly this will work? Isn't it? While for explanation also, if I am going to explain this concept in English, then definitely you will use this concept twice. ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ 2 ಸಲ ನೀವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ದಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಸಹ ದಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಅದನ್ನೇ ನೀವು ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಗ್ರಾಮರಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ದಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು ಕೀವರ್ಡ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಯಾವಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ದಿಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವ ಕೀವರ್ಡನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರೋ, ಯಾವ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿಂದ ನೀವು ಆ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟರ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಆಗಿದೋ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿರಲಿ, ಎಂಥದೇ ಆಗಲಿ, ಯಾವುದೇ ಮೆಥಡ್ ಆಗಿರಲಿ, ಯಾವ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿಂದ ಕಾಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟನ್ನು ದಿಸ್ ಕೀವರ್ಡ್ ರೆಫರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷಲ್ಲಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ರಿಡಂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಫಾರ್ ದಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ವೆನೆವರ್ ವಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ವೆನೆವರ್ ವಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್, ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್. ಇವರು ಯಾವ ದಿಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ದಿಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಅಥವಾ ದಿಸ್ ಕೀವರ್ಡನ್ನು, ಯೂಶ್ವಲಿ ಕೀವರ್ಡನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ದಿಸ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಅರೈಸ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ or in your brain, isn't it? So that is the reason why they said it is redundant but perfectly correct. This concept is exactly correct. Until unless you create some code, until and unless you run some or execute some code, you will never get to know this concept. Okay, so I will provide some programs in the upcoming slides or videos, don't worry, but this is the concept of this keyword. Okay, inside box, this will always refer to a invoking object. So this is the concept of object. So here before that finalize thing, you have seen that protected keyword, isn't it? So here the keyword protected is a specifier that prevents access to finalize code defined outside the class. So it is access specifier, that is the thing I said. So it is important to understand that finalize is the only just prior to garbage collection. I already said it is not called when an object goes out of the scope. For example, this means that you cannot know when or even if finalize will be executed or not, because that is the last stage of your application. Last stage, when you close it, this finalize will come. Finalize method will come into picture. You will never know whether it has executed or not, because you have already closed the application. You will never bother about this finalize thing and all, isn't it? So that is the reason why they said like that. Okay, therefore your program should provide other means of releasing system resources, etc. used by the object. It must not rely on finalize for normal program operation. So they cannot even justify that whether the finalize method has executed or not in the end, because that is a just before closing of your application. It will be in terms of milliseconds. You will never bother about it and you will never get to know also. So that is the reason why they said like this. So this is the concept of this keyword finalize as well as garbage collection. So it is one of the important thing. I am not saying that you should neglect it, but this is the feature of Java. It is the power of Java and beauty of Java, so that it will automatically take care of this garbage collection, and as a developer you don't need to worry much. Okay, these are some of the concept I just wanted to say. So for this video it is enough. So let me continue with the rest of the videos, and rest of the concepts will be given. And I guess one video has just gone wrong. I guess I don't know from second year, third year, someone has texted me. I will look into it. If something goes wrong, definitely I will re-upload. That is not a problem. So okay, so I will take care of it. I guess it's not this class. I will see what to do. So let me wind up here. Rest of the things we will see in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching.